Rama Rama Hare Hare Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome Prabhupada for our session. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Please give us your blessings. So we may have a nice discussion today. So this is our first Bhaktivedanta 2019. Not exactly sure what a new year means. We've been cycling through so many years. But let's make something interesting out of the holiday. That is. So, the new year is full of these New Year's resolutions. Interesting, right? New Year's resolutions. And if you summarize all of the New Year's resolutions, what are they aimed at? What is the goal of the New Year's resolutions?
Break the resolution.
To what?
To break the resolution.
To break them? Well, that's not the goal. That's the end result. We'll talk about that. Well, what's the goal? Why do people make New Year's resolutions? Yeah.
To make their lives better.
Yeah, to make their lives better. To bring about some improvement in their life. Right? So we make a resolution. Nobody makes a resolution to bring upon disappointment. Nobody makes a resolution, in 2019, I want to be unhappy. At the end of the day, we make these resolutions to try to improve some aspect of our life. And if we see most resolutions, they revolve around what?
To make us happy.
Money.
Make us happy. Well, what part of us?
Well, materialistic things like the outer body, like everybody wants to lose weight.
So I did a little research. And it's interesting. So 37% of New Year's resolutions are losing weight, eating better. Another 37, losing weight, exercise more. These are not additive because you can have multiple responses. Another 37% were to save money. Self-care, this was like sleep, doing yoga, doing some kind of, some type of help, 24%. Reading more, 18%. And this goes on, various things. But the one number that is stunning is 92% of all resolutions fail. And I think if we really look at it, it's probably closer to 100%. Obviously, respondents will give some success. And there's a really simple reason for this. What is the problem with all of these seemingly nice resolutions to improve one's life? What are they focused on?
On the body.
They're all focused on the bodily conception of life. And we know Arjuna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he was looking at the prospects of this war from what conception?
By body.
I am this body. And thus, he was in complete distress. He could not find solutions to his problems. This prospect of fighting the war, he couldn't figure out how to address that. Because he was looking at everything from I'm the body. what are all these resolutions looking at it from the perspective of I am this body? Well, this body is temporary. It is full of change. So any resolutions related to the body are never really going to work. Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter. He speaks about this vyavasayatmika buddhi, this fixed intelligence. And he says those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. Resolutions. Resolutions means to be fixed, determined in some endeavor. And Krishna is saying, those who are on the path of bhakti, and specifically in this section he's speaking about buddhi yoga, or we can say bhakti, they are resolute in purpose. And there's a simple reason for this. When we have to eat better, it means we have to give up some foods and exchange them for other foods, right? I'm going to give up my potato chips and I'm going to eat apple slices. I'm going to exercise more, which means I have to give up my sitting on the couch and I have to go to the gym. I'm going to save money. I'm going to not spend money where my senses tell me to spend money. So in every scenario, what are we doing?
Giving up some.
We're giving up something for something else, right? Well, in material life, the problem is we're giving up one thing for another, but nothing is satisfying. I was with a friend a couple of days ago, and he was saying that, every year he makes the same New Year's resolution. And he says that, I'm going to stop drinking and I'm going to stop eating meat. And his purpose is to lose weight, primarily. And he says, I last till sometime in March every year. And I'll lose like 30 pounds. And I'll feel great. But eventually I go back to it. I told him, it's for one simple reason. And we all know it. We've been studying this 2nd chapter. And Krishna said, what does he say? This higher taste. I said, you're giving up something, but you haven't replaced it with something better. If you gave up the intoxication and replaced it with something better, then you'd have no reason to look back to what you gave up. But the problem with all these resolutions, the apple slices aren't better than the potato chips. And so we cannot be resolute in purpose. But when our resolutions are centered around Krishna in our spiritual life, then we can make real resolutions that will last. Because now we are becoming, as Krishna says in this verse, vyavasayatmika buddhi, this fixed intelligence, experiencing a sweeter taste. It becomes very palatable to give up various things and to stay determined on other things, our spiritual life. Because there is a sweetness that is felt, that is experienced. And this happens because all of our happiness at the end of the day comes from the engagement of our soul. The body is just a source of misery. But if I try to extract happiness out of this body, I'm going to be frustrated. All these resolutions try to improve my life, but they don't work. So how to really improve our life? It is to improve our connection with Krishna. So New Year's resolutions are good, but we should understand them from the perspective not that I am this body, but I am this soul. So now, what kind of New Year's resolutions can we make? What kind of New Year's resolutions can bring about real happiness and bring about sustainable results? That happens only if I'm going to give up something of lesser value for something of higher value. So you can think about your New Year's resolutions, and you can think how you can find these higher tastes. This drishva nivartate. Okay? discuss some New Year's resolutions at the end. So we finished chapter 2 last time, so I thought we'd do a quick summary of chapter 2 and just how it's broken down. So what was the mood of Arjuna in the beginning of the second chapter? Happy?
Confused.
He
Confused.
was confused.
What else?
Fear.
Huh?
Fear.
Fear. He was fearful.
And he was thinking about his family, people who are right in front of him.
Yeah, he was saddened by the prospect of having to fight those next to him. He was very close to him. He was in stress. This battle was about to ensue. Any of us are ever confused, in stress, anxiety, fear? Yeah, we have it. So Arjuna is teaching us something really important. What did he do when he was in such condition? What did he do in the very beginning of the second chapter?
He surrendered to Krishna.
He surrendered to Krishna. That is what we are all waiting for. When are we going to look to Krishna for answers? The whole world is looking everywhere for answers, particularly in this time of year. But the real answers exist here. And Arjuna turned to Krishna and said, I am your surrendered disciple. You now instruct me. You tell me what is good for me. And so Krishna, every single thing he speaks in this Bhagavad Gita, he has only one goal in mind. What's the single goal Krishna has in speaking in the Bhagavad Gita?
To make Arjuna happy.
To make Arjuna happy. That's it. How he can give Arjuna happiness. And actually he is speaking to whom?
To all of us.
All of us. He is saying, my dear friend is in distress. When we have a friend in distress, we try to help them. That is the natural disposition of a friendship relationship. In this way, Krishna has only one objective. So when he says things like, surrender unto me, who benefits? Arjuna. We benefit. When he says, you surrender all the fruits to me, who benefits? We. When he says that everything you do in life should be a sacrifice, who benefits?
We.
But we think, I'm going to lose. But remember this instruction, this important piece. Whole Krishna did not say a single word until Arjuna asked his opinion. Krishna will not speak to us until we ask him, my dear Lord, please guide me. He'll not force us. He didn't say a single word in the whole first chapter. But once Arjuna asked, then Krishna spoke. So the first thing Krishna spoke about, 19 verses on
Spirit soul.
We are spirit.
we are a spirit soul. The fundamental flaw of Arjuna's logic was he was looking at everything through the lens, I am this body. As soon as we do that, everything we do from that point forward is incorrect. Just like if I'm walking around an art gallery and I'm looking at art, but my glasses are tinted red and they have some speckles on them. Now everything I see from that point forward is distorted. Nothing is reality. Because the perspective of which I'm looking through is distorted. So the same way, Arjuna's logic had no weight because he was looking at it from the wrong perspective. So Krishna immediately hits him with, you are spirit soul. And so many wonderful verses he presents about the nature of the soul. And Prabhupada's purports in this section of Bhagavad Gita are extraordinary. Because he's taking this very difficult, abstract topic of the soul and making it very tangible for us. And then Krishna begins to speak about this karma, He actually starts with the karma kanda. That Arjuna, even if you want to become materially happy, you should still fight this war. And he explains those rationales why. So he started on the platform of the soul, which is a higher platform. That, Arjuna, you should fight. Because don't see the body, see the soul. And it is good for their soul. Because by them leaving their body in the presence of me in this battlefield, they will become liberated. Because otherwise, they're going to have to suffer the sins of all of the atrocities they committed. So yeah, the body may perish, but the soul will prosper. When we are driving in our vehicle, are we more concerned about our own prosperity, our own health, or the car's health? When there's an accident in the road, our attention first goes to the car. Is the Benz okay?
Yeah.
No, we want to know, is everyone all right? The people. Right? The soul within our body is of utmost importance. So that was Krishna's explanation. But he said, even if you don't believe in the soul, to enjoy happiness, you have to do your duty. We don't want to go through all the verses. But then he came to the topic of buddhi yoga. Ultimately bhakti, indirectly. Where he's saying that you work in this detached mood, and then you'll find perfection of life. Then you'll find real happiness. And it then concluded with this last section of Arjuna's inquiry. Krishna had explained somebody who had found transcendence by working in this detached mode. They had found great happiness. And Arjuna said, stop. Krishna, tell me more. And he asked 4 very intelligent questions about how to understand this person. And what was the central theme of this section? What was the main theme of this final section? What are we supposed to do? Control the senses. And controlling the senses does not mean
Stopping the senses.
stopping the senses. Controlling the senses means engaging them productively. Not trying to stop them from eating potato chips, but to engage them in eating rasagullas offered to the Lord. That is the means of controlling the senses. And Krishna said, in order to make spiritual progress, we must be detached from all of our material desires and become fixed in our spiritual life. And the only way to do that is to taste the happiness of spiritual life. If you have $5 bills in your hand, you're not going to exchange them unless I'm giving you back $20 bills. It's a simple formula. I'll not give up one activity unless I'm going to exchange it for a better activity. And that's why does the gym fail? Because sitting on the couch, click, 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 is more enjoyable. So our resolution in going to the gym falters in time. But in spiritual life, when we give up, click, 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 and we begin to chant, 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 we experience the bliss of spiritual life. And then one can remain resolute because they're experiencing this better taste. So this is the second chapter in a nutshell. So I thought we would do a little overview of the third chapter. So there are certain key themes in the third chapter that we can discuss. The most basic principle, overarching principle, is that Krishna is going to discuss here how to purify our consciousness so that we can achieve self-realization. What's in our consciousness today? Purity? No. We've got all kinds of ideas, all kinds of desires, even ones we know aren't good for us, but they're full. And what do we sometimes wish? We could be free from them. So Krishna is going to explain how to purify our consciousness and how to achieve self-realization. What does self-realization mean?
Who am I?
Who am I? I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. But we have to go a little bit further. Because just knowing I'm spirit soul, this gyan, I need to know one more thing.
What am I supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do? I'm soul, and what is my relation to everything around me? That self-realization must bring one to engage in bhakti. So this is the central theme of the third chapter. So we're going to discuss working or being active is better than being inactive. And that is going to be the opening question Arjuna presents in a verse we'll discuss briefly today. We're going to see that detaching from the fruits is key to avoiding bondage. So detaching we'll discuss. Fruits, not mangoes and papayas and apples. And avoiding bondage. Not the bondage we can see by tying our hands, but what binds us to this material world. If we try to enjoy the fruits of our labor, we then have to accept the reactions from everything we do. And as we've always said, if you have any reactions either in your good karma account or your bad karma account, it means at the end of his life, if there are any balances in either, what happens? You have to come back and get those. And in coming back and getting those, if I continue to do other activities attached to the fruits, what am I doing? I'm adding more deposits into each account. Unfortunately, our Bank of America or PNC account, we don't get to come back and get. But our karma account, that's ours. But also our bhakti account, that is also ours. So the bondage is caused by being attached to the fruits. It means we're creating reactions that we have to come back and get. If I have to come back and get it, it means I'm stuck here. We'll discuss lots about that. Then we're going to discuss about how working in a detached mood, what is the benefit of working in a detached mood? Why I should give up the fruits. I'm only going to give up the fruits if, when will I give up the fruits of my work?
There's
If, and you were going to say?
there's a, what he said. I was going to say it differently, but
If there's something good that's going to come from it, right?
like a different benefit.
A benefit, yeah. A better benefit. Why would I give something up unless it was beneficial for me? Right? So unless we understand what is the benefit of renouncing the fruits, the object of, the concept of renunciation for us is no, it's mine, mine, mine. And Krishna is going to say, Prakute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimutatma kartam iti manyate. Your ahankara, your false ego is bewildering you. You are not the doer. And thus you are not the enjoyer of the fruits. But once I understand that it is going to lead to my purification and knowledge, not purification of my body, purification of my consciousness and the covering of my soul, then detachment makes a lot of sense. And knowledge of why and what is the benefit of such detachment. So that's what Krishna is going to explain. And the key part is detachment. And Krishna is going to explain that detachment by attachment is easier than detachment alone. I shouldn't say alone, I should say alone. So what is detachment by attachment? That sounds like a oxymoron.
Becoming detached from the materialistic things in your life and attaching onto Lord Krishna.
Yes. Actually, real detachment can only occur when we attach to something else. So it's like a child. A child has a piece of candy in his hand. how hard is it to get that child to detach from that piece of candy? Good luck.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. But now you offer a bag of candy to that child. They'll detach from that piece of candy in their hand? So attaching to something greater makes it very easy to detach. So the jnanis want to detach from matter. I am not matter, I am spirit. But the difficult piece is there's nothing to attach to that gives pleasure, happiness, enjoyment. And so that detachment becomes very temporary. So Krishna is going to teach us how to experience real detachment in an easy and enjoyable and blissful way. Anybody wants to know how to do that? So that is the third chapter. Okay? So the rough summary, first couple of verses, Arjuna is going to inquire. This is already in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the third time Arjuna has inquired. What is our role in spiritual life? What must we do?
Serve Krishna?
We must serve Krishna. And what should we do with our intelligence?
Dovetail it for serving Krishna?
Dovetail for serving Krishna. But we should inquire. We have to inquire. We all have doubts. We all have blind spots. And Arjuna is asking over and over and over and over. Virtually every other chapter opens with a question from Arjuna. So Krishna is going to definitively answer this. He's going to give a very clear and definitive answer, whether one should renounce or whether one should work. He's going to say the words, far superior, to leave no room for doubt. Well, this is better, but they're close. No. He's going to say, working in a detached mood is far superior than trying to renounce. So spirituality is not about putting everything up on eBay and going to the forest. That is renunciation. But Krishna is saying no. Far superior is to work. He's going to explain that our life is meant for yajna. And then he's going to spend the bulk of the chapter, 19 verses, on this nishkam karma yoga. How to do activity in a detached mood. And finally, he's going to discuss this. Arjuna is going to ask another question in the third chapter. He's going to ask this question. What is this invisible force that seemingly pulls one into sinful activities? They know it's wrong, yet they can't stop it. What is it, Krishna? Arjuna is asking. And Krishna is going to say, it is lust. Lust only. So, Krishna will discuss lust and how to attack it. He's going to tell us where it resides and how to attack it. He's going to say it's in the senses, mind, and intelligence, and how to defeat it. Okay? That's chapter 4. So let's read verse 1. Somebody would like to read the verse?
Arjuna uvaca jyayasi karmanas te mata buddhir Janardana tat kim karmani ghore niyojayasi Kesava. Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Kesava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter, with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material greed. And the path of realization has been recommended, buddhi yoga, or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place. where one may acquire one cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or buddhi yoga or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life in the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga or work in Krishna consciousness in this third chapter.
So, our acharyas explained that this question is in direct response to verse 49 of the second chapter. And it gets to the core topic, active versus inactive. Secluded place in the jungle, or in the palace as a ruler, in the case of Arjuna. And in the 49th verse of the second chapter, Krishna said, O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So, Krishna said, keep abominable activities distant by devotional service. So Arjuna's inquiry here is, wait a minute, this ghastly warfare is an abominable activity. Isn't it better that I do devotional service? And what did he consider devotional service to be? We can understand at least from the purport that Prabhupada is giving. Renunciation, right? So he thought it meant practice of penance and austerity in a secluded place. So, and we often have that same misconception. Right? Spirituality is for when I have settled things in my material life. I have to first graduate college. Then I have to get a job. I have to settle my job. Well, then I have to get married. Well, then I have to settle my home. Well, then I have children. Well, now I have to raise my children. And then I have to reach retirement. Then I have to get my children married. And then I have to watch the grandchildren. And where does it end? Death. So, spirituality is not about renouncing all of those activities. Spirituality is about finding how to bring Krishna into the center of all those activities. So Arjuna has misunderstood the point that Krishna made by saying keep all these abominable activities far away by doing devotional service. So as Prabhupada said, Arjuna is trying to use that as an excuse to flee to the battle, flee the battlefield. And Krishna says, shh, come back. Come back. You have some work to do. But work intelligently. Don't work attached to the fruits. Work detached. Okay? So,
Can I ask a question? I'm
Please,
sorry. What
yeah.
does this word mean? Be inertia.
be inertia.
Yeah.
No, basically that means inactive. That we don't do anything.
Okay.
And the consciousness is this, or the thought process is this. Well, everything around me is matter. Right? I only see matter around me. So I shouldn't engage in any type of material activity. So I shouldn't do anything. So I avoid all aspects of matter. And if I don't have further knowledge, it leads me to conclude that I should sit and meditate. I should just meditate on the Supreme within. But there's a challenge or a flaw in that thought process. Krishna's going to say, technically it can work. He's going to say in a couple of verses that this Sankhya process and this work process both have the same end result end goal, which is self-realization. But he's going to say the active process of self-realization is much better. Why? It's easier. It's more enjoyable. You have a higher probability of success. 3 main reasons Krishna is going to give. Easier, more enjoyable, and a higher probability of success. If that describes the active process, that means the inactive process is less enjoyable, lower probability of success, and much harder. So which process should we take? But what does karma yoga mean? Karma means activity. And yoga means?
Connection.
It means connecting with the Supreme. That is the meaning of yoga. You, it comes from the root word you, which means to link. So all yoga concludes in linking with the Supreme. And who is the Supreme? It's Krishna. So what Krishna is going to explain in this chapter is karma, how to do activity, action, in a way that is connecting you with Krishna. That is karma yoga. There's a yoga studio nearby that's called karma yoga. And I don't know if they teach this or not. But this real karma yoga, which is how to perform activity in a way that connects you with Krishna. So what, in essence, yes, everything is matter around us, but how that matter can be used in the service of Krishna. Ultimately, Arjuna was going to figure out that this fighting of the battle was not a material activity. Why?
Because he was following the instructions of Krishna.
Because Krishna wanted him to do it. And that makes it bhakti. Right? So, inactive versus active. So Prabhupada says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is elaborately described the condition of the soul in the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter. So we have this first fundamental question. Who am I? Who am I? Spirit soul. And the spirit soul is?
Part and parcel of Krishna.
Part and parcel of Krishna. Is your soul different than someone else's soul, than my soul in terms of what it is?
That's the Atma and the Paratma.
That's the Supreme Soul, yeah. So every Atma, every soul is part
And parcel of Krishna.
and parcel. Both words are very, very important. Part means, what does part mean?
Small.
Peace.
Well, not
Peace.
separate
Or
from.
not.
It means it comes from Krishna.
Krishna.
It means the soul has the same qualities as Krishna. But they are present in very minute quantity. Qualitatively similar, quantitatively very small. Just like a spark from a fire. A spark from a fire has some heat and light similar to that of the fire. But how much heat and light does that spark contain? It's very small. So much so that if you touch it, it won't even burn you. But that spark, if it goes and separates too far from the fire, what happens to the spark? Because that spark is in relation to the fire. Similarly, the soul has this eternal connection with Krishna. Parcel means that we are
Covered?
not quite covered. We are? Yeah. We got many packages over the holidays. Parcel refers to the fact that we are separated expansions. Never was there a time that I did not exist, nor you. And never will there be a time that you shall exist or cease to exist, nor I. That's the 12th verse, 2nd chapter. Right? So, we come from Krishna, but we are eternally individual, existing Atmas. We never lose our individual experience. And so what is the role of the part? To serve Krishna. The hand is part of my body. So what is the function of the hand? To render service to the body. To put food into the mouth, to comb the hair, for all of you at least. To do it. That's the role of the hand. If the hand tries to be separate from the body and is over there in the corner, does the hand have any function, any utility, any value? The hand has value when it is connected to the whole. Our soul is part of the Supreme. So the soul finds its happiness, its bliss, when it is connected to the whole. When it is connected to Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying here, the constitution of the soul, it is part and parcel of Krishna, and it is eternally the servant of Krishna. It is not a matter of, oh, you love Krishna, you are part of, you have something. No. Every single living entity has this identical constitution. And so we are only in the process of awakening that understanding. That's it. So Arjuna's confusion was, what is spirituality? Is it the yogi in the forest? How many of us are ready to sign up for this?
I am.
out of frustration from the material world. But don't worry.
This still can bring about enlightenment, but isn't it like the hardest way? Like there's easier ways, more functional ways.
Yes, stay tuned for the 4 verses. Krishna's going to say, yes, one can achieve enlightenment this way. But he's going to tell us, what is the better way? The active way. That is the better way. He's going to say, you want to see the verse? You can see it right here. He says, on the 7th verse, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. So yes, they both have the same end goal, but the active process has much better approach. Not according to my opinion, your opinion, or someone else's opinion. According to whose opinion? Krishna's opinion is whose matter. Not this person says this, that person says this. That's all relative. Krishna has the absolute truth because he knows everything. Past, present, future, up, down, left, right, inside, out. He has complete knowledge. No one else does. So when he says something is far superior, it is not a matter of opinion, it is truth. It is true. And it is absolute. So, our key, Prabhupada is guiding us in this purport that, the idea of even taking to our Krishna consciousness in a secluded forest is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And Krishna will be speaking now, coming up, why. That, he says to Arjuna, don't become a mityachara, pretender. Because when we try to renounce things prematurely, if we haven't purified our consciousness, we will fall back to those attachments. So better to work, and by the result of working, we will purify and obtain knowledge. Remember back this detached mood leads to purification. No longer am I going to desire the the bitter allurements of the material world. My tastes are purified. And I have knowledge that bhakti is the perfection of all life. So in this way, this chapter will teach us how to obtain this purification. Then you may renounce. Then you may go to the forest. Because if you go to the forest, my dear, right now, you'll be back before next Thursday.
Before lunch.
Before lunch. Yeah. Because we haven't purified. So that is the main essence of this chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And we'll be discussing Krishna's answers in the coming next week. Any comments or questions?
Is Krishna expecting us to finally, at the end of the time, to go actually to do all these things? That, going to the forest or then all these things, or that is not required at all?
No. He is ultimately going to say, Yoginam api sarvesha madgate nantaratma shaddavan bhajate yomam same yuktato mataha. At the end of the 6th chapter, after describing all the yogic processes, he says, who is the highest of all? Shaddavan bhajate yomam. One who in faith abides in me. The bhakti yogi. And bhakti yogi does? Krishna asks him to do patram pushpam phalam toyam. Yomi bhakti prayachti. So that's why did Prabhupada go to the forest? He went to the forest of the skyscrapers to save all of us. Bhakti is an active process of chanting, reading, association, diet. It is an activity aimed at pleasing the Lord under the instruction of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Okay? So don't worry. At the end of this, we won't be all going to the forest.
In one of the lectures, Prabhuji, I heard that like you going to go do that vanaprastha ashram. What is that then? Like,
vanaprastha
towards the
ashram.
end of the time, like when the kids are already like well settled, then you don't have to kind of, your responsibilities are done, then you kind of more go into excessive devotional service.
Yeah, vanaprastha. Vana means forest. Van. Vrindavan. Van means forest. So the great saintly kings, when they, they were ruling in very opulent ways, but as soon as their children were of age, they gave it all up. And they went to the forest to focus on the real purpose of life. The ruling of the planet was not for the satisfaction of their ego and their enjoyment of their senses, to be royally served, have opulent, facilities. No, that was a responsibility given to them for the betterment of society. Completely opposite to the rulers of today's world. But as soon as they were able to relinquish it, meaning their children were of age to be able to take over that, they moved on to their ultimate purpose of life, which is to focus on bhakti. But time, place, and circumstance. So what does vanaprastha ashram mean now? Yeah, we go to still the forest of Vrindavan, to the holy dhams, to the temples. Wherever there is Krishna, it's Vrindavan. And we render service. We focus on service. Not becoming overly attached to family life. And I have to emphasize overly attached. We have our responsibilities. But don't lose sight of our ultimate responsibility. So don't worry. We won't have to eat roots and berries. We're not able to do such austerity. We're not qualified. We are in Kali Yuga, such activity is not recommended. In prior yugas, we had the purity and the ability to do such. Not today. But the point is, we settle our family life in the means that they can become self-sufficient. And then, and we focus on our spiritual life. That is vanaprastha.
we say, like when we say we should not like too much get attached to the family, but certain stages we are supposed to go and attach and do something which will drag us for a long time, and again the grandchildren, etc., etc., will continue to move on. So how do we handle that? Because if we don't do that, they say you're not doing your duty. So
Now you're asking me to enter the danger zone of commenting. So the point is that we have responsibilities. We have to support our family and our children, and make sure things are. But again, for the goal of bringing about their spiritual life. Right? So if my responsibilities are taking me away temporarily from one service, I have to make this other activity also a service. If I am not in the temple and performing arti to the deities, but I'm out on the street distributing books, am I saying I've left the service of Krishna to distribute? No. One service for another service. So, if I am going to attend to my family, my service is by connecting Krishna's lost children, my family, to Krishna. That is the attachment to our family. Should be, these are my very dear loved ones. How I can help them reconnect with their ultimate loved one, Krishna. So we have to make those activities. So now I'm exchanging one service for another service. Understand? So that way it is not, remember, I don't like this idea of balance. I have my material activities, spirit. No. It doesn't work that way. There's no concept of balance. The concept is how to make everything that we're doing spiritual. It's okay?
yeah.
And we have to be practical.
Yeah, one question. You mentioned about inactive state, but we heard there are a lot of rishis, including Lord Buddha. They all renounced and went to the forest and then followed sannyasa. So, what does it signify? Again, with respect to the one which you compared active and inactive.
Oh, Krishna is going to say that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. This is the third verse. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. There's two paths, the inactive path and the active path. So how am I going to decide which path to take? I can fly to Chicago or I can drive to Chicago. How am I going to decide which one I'm going to do?
It depends how much money you have,
Depends how much money you have,
how much time you
how
have,
much time you have.
how much energy you have.
Benefit.
Ultimately, what's better? What's best for me? So Krishna is going to tell us. So yeah, it's possible. But in what era that was possible?
Oh, not in Kali Yuga. No.
We can't even meditate for 5 minutes. Wait till you see chapter 6 and what is required to be able to practice Ashtanga Yoga. Before we get to the asanas and the pranayamas, we have to pass through the yamas and niyamas, the do's and don'ts. And immediately those disqualify all of us. So, the inactive path, Krishna's going to say, is very dry. It's very difficult. It can take many lifetimes. By bhakti, one gets to enjoy their senses. It's very sweet and pleasurable. And it's very fast. Now you decide. It's up to you. Krishna will lay out the options. He asked Arjuna, I have said everything. You have any more questions? In the 18th chapter, Krishna asked, you have any more questions? He was prepared to speak everything again. And Arjuna said no. And Arjuna said, Karishye vachanam tava. I am now prepared to follow as you have instructed. So we can come up with all kinds of ideas, but Krishna is instructed far superior is this. That should become case closed. No need to analyze anymore. Why? Krishna vachanam tava. Krishna says. And ultimately he's going to say, Sarva dharmam prityaja mamikam sharanam praja. Give up everything. Just surrender unto me.
No.
Oh, anybody?
From can you explain what is karma kanda and what is karma yoga and this niskam karma yoga? How different is this?
Yeah. I will, and I'll put one slide together for next week because it's a little bit technical, but I think if we put it on, we can discuss. So, karma kanda is the process, and that is, the vast majority of the Vedas are filled with these karma kanda sacrifices. And Krishna is going to speak about those in the coming verses. And what they are is they are regulated sense enjoyment. Regulated sense enjoyment. So it is, I follow various aspects of Vedas for the purpose of enjoying my senses. So there is a self-desire. And thus it is karma kanda. It is not yet karma yoga. Because yoga implies now I am working for a higher cause. Within karma yoga there is two divisions. Sakam karma yoga and nishkam karma yoga. Sakam means with desires. I have desires for the fruit, but I still renounce them. There's a mode of passion there. Nishkam means nishkam, no desires. So nishkam karma yoga means I'm still attached to the work. I want to do this activity, but I'm detached from the fruit. That is nishkam karma yoga. So I'm working, and then there's some divisions within nishkam karma yoga we won't get into, a little bit technical, it's not so relevant. But there are some distinctions between nishkam karma yoga that lead to bhakti. The difference between nishkam karma yoga and bhakti, okay? Because they sound sometimes similar. Prabhupada will use them a little bit interchangeably as well. Nishkam karma yoga is, I want to do this work, but I detach from the fruit because I have knowledge that I am spirit soul and I am not to do it. So I renounce the fruit, but I'm attached to the work. Bhakti is I'm detached from the work and the fruit. Bhakti, Krishna, you tell me what to do. I'll do it. You want me to go to the forest? I'll go to the forest. You want me to rule? I'll rule. You want me to shoot arrows? I'll shoot arrows. The difference is, one is nishkam, still attached to the work but renounces the fruit.
What was that, Prabhu?
That's nishkam karma yoga. Bhakti, I am renounced from the work and the fruit. So the question is when the renunciation occurs. Before the work or after the work. That is the distinction between those two. It's okay?
And Prabhu, in one of the Prabhupada lectures, I heard that you don't give a plan to Krishna. Krishna is planning for you. Okay. So if I don't want to give a plan to Krishna means I still have to do my duties. For me to do my duties, I still need to plan my, okay, I need to achieve this, I need to do this. So I still need to desire and I have to do this, right? So how what is this here? Because it is connected to what you are saying in Nishkam Karma Yoga. So
Prabhupada is speaking at the platform of bhakti, we don't give our plan to Krishna. Meaning Krishna has a plan for all of us. And guess what? You want to know what? You want to know the absolute truth? His plan is better than yours. His plan is better than mine. Why?
Because he knows all.
Because his plan is perfect. His plan is perfect. But what do? We go to the temple, we pray, and we tell Krishna our plan. And the problem with that now is we put Krishna in a pickle. Why? Because Krishna loves us so much that he wants to fulfill our desires. But now we aren't allowing his plan to go through, which in all likelihood is even better than whatever we are desiring.
But how do you go through life without a plan? Seriously, like I am, and I don't think it's really working. You know what I mean? Like, how do you really go through life without a plan?
No, the two different things, right? You need goals and objectives, but you need a spiritual plan. You need a spiritual plan. And that is why Krishna is going to say, Tad vidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya bhakteshanti te ganam jnaninas tattva. You have not seen the tattva. You have not had darshan of tattva. But the guru, the spiritual master, has. And so, what you should do? You should inquire from him. Render service. Pariprashnena, humbly. And take guidance of what your plan should be. And that way, we don't have the risk of having our plan trump Krishna's plan. But yes, you're right. We need direction. We need some guidance of what to do.
So you're saying have no plan, just have a spiritual plan.
Yeah, that's a plan.
Okay. All set then.
No, that's a plan. Like
Okay.
you have to have and then we have to be prepared to follow the plan of the guidance of our spiritual master, who guides us into practice, who says, work, do this, don't do this, who guides us practically in the execution of devotional service. So we can't be blindly, okay, I'm just going to the office, I have no plan to finish the job. No. Krishna says, Vigata Jara. Arjuna, you fight without lethargy. Arjuna didn't have a plan on the battlefield to fight? Of course he did. He was using the intelligence he was given to make that. But all of it was under the umbrella instruction of Krishna. He tells Arjuna in this 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, Oh Savya Sachin. He's saying, Arjuna, you are ambidextrous. You can shoot arrows from both hands. You are so talented. You be an instrument in my plan. He says, you become an instrument in my plan. So we have a very important role to play. And we should become very talented and expert. Arjuna was an extraordinarily expert archer. And Krishna is glorifying his expertise by calling him Savya Sachin. It's very interesting how Krishna uses it. He's saying you're expert. He's not saying, hey, why you have wasted your time becoming an expert archer. He's saying, no, you're an expert archer. Become an instrument in my plan. So our goal should become a very sharp instrument. Do the best we can. Become very intelligent. Master the field. Whatever we're doing, be the best we can. So that we can enact Krishna's plan. Why? Because that will give us more happiness than trying to enact our own plan. We've been trying to enact our own plan for millions of lifetimes. Just for one lifetime, try enacting Krishna's plan and see what happens. What's the loss? Have millions of lives. Just try it for one lifetime. Forget one lifetime. Try it for one decade.
Do people ever, I know this is off topic, but do people ever remember their past lives?
Yeah, there's some unfortunate souls. Because it's very unfortunate. The mind is has no peace just understanding our existing life. Imagine how much unsettled we'd be if we had confusion of our past lives. But there are cases of this. But Krishna says, Matashmatir Gyanam Apohanam Cha. I am the source of forgetfulness. He allows us to forget even our relationship with Krishna so that we can try to enjoy this material world. Because we want it to. So, some people do remember, but it's an unfortunate situation. Though it may seem kind of cool or unique, it's actually quite an unsettling situation. It's okay?
So Prabhu, that means you still need to plan. You can still plan, but don't desire to get that result. If it comes, comes. If it's not,
and dovetail your plans with how to increase my spiritual life. I want this promotion in the office. I want this promotion in the office. I want this promotion in the office. Okay, why? Because I want to serve Krishna more. Okay, great. Go after it. And if it doesn't happen, Krishna must have a different plan for me. And start working on your next idea. But don't think, Krishna, you forgot about me. You didn't fulfill my plan. Here's $5 more in the hundi. Let Krishna's plan play out. So that's the meaning of surrender. Surrender doesn't mean we become inertia, inactive. Remember, that was Arjuna's question. Don't become inactive. I have no plan, I'm just going to become this like blah. No, to be active, but intelligently active. How intelligent was Srila Prabhupada in every moment of the day? If we see our great acharyas, they're so expert. Srila Jiva Goswami was so expert in the field of law, in the management, leadership, scholarship. So many things he's expert in. It's very active. But following in the instructions of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So the success we have should come in executing the order of our spiritual life. Then we'll find success in our endeavor. So, but if you're attached to the work, it's okay. You're in the Nishkam Karma Yoga. Don't worry.
Prabhu, the active means do the work, but keep Krishna in the center, and then give up the results. Right. But the moment you do the work and then enjoy the results, then is it considered as inactive?
No. That is activity, but it is not intelligent activity. It's not karma yoga. It is karma. It's action, but it's not yoga.
No.
Because it's not action that leads to the connection with Krishna. It's action that leads to my sense enjoyment. So now it's karma kanda possibly, or even lower, unregulated sense enjoyment. Okay?
But not inactive.
So active, we can't just run around like a chicken with our heads cut off. That's not intelligent activity. Intelligent activity means we're active for a purpose. Krishna wasn't saying, Arjuna, you just run around. He said, no, you fight and you destroy these people. And Krishna is going to explain, because the soul is active, the nature of of us is to be active. So to try to be inactive is very difficult. It's unnatural. Anyways, in the spiritual world, we're all active. In the spiritual world, we're not sitting and meditating. We're enjoying with Krishna. So might as well enjoy with Krishna now, in the material world. Because that's our natural state. If we try to impose an unnatural state, there's going to be always some tension. Just like a spring. If I compress a spring, that's an unnatural state for that spring. Because its natural state is to be extended. So I can hold it down for some time. But eventually, it's going to pop. I can try to suppress my sense desires. But eventually, instead I have to alter my sense desires. By action. By purifying, I'll alter those desires. Okay? Any other comments, questions? Okay.
Prabhuji, that Sankhya philosophy, is it same that driving out that air thing? Is that the same thing?
Sankhya.
Not quite.
And you can talk about
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So now we'll chant. Jai Shri Krishna.